Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up and enjoy. Today we're looking at 5 things you can modify on your motorized bike to make it go so much faster. So the first thing we're going to be looking into is modifying our exhaust. And this is going to help so much because these exhausts on the motorized bikes are not the best exhausts. Actually, they're pretty bad. So when your kit comes in the mail or wherever you buy it, you come with exhaust probably looking like this. And these exhausts really aren't the best. You honestly can't tell me this is giving you a ton of power. So there's a few different ways we can modify these exhausts. We can either modify the ones we have or get new ones. The new ones are going to be a lot better than modifying your own that you have, but this is also a much cheaper way. So the first thing we can do to modify exhaust right at home, buying nothing, all you need is one wrench, is pop that little tip off right there by unscrewing that nut and pop the tip off. Now, there's a couple cons to this. The first con that I'd talk about is when you take this off, it starts rattling a lot more and it'll start splitting off right up here, and eventually the whole bottom part of the exhaust will fall off, and all you're gonna be left with is hot dog part of the exhaust right here. And this way doesn't give you the maximum power. It gives you a little bit more power, but not the maximum amount. The other con with this exhaust, if you take the tip off, is there's not gonna be enough back pressure in this exhaust, and you need back pressure on your engines so that it'll keep the unused gas inside the cylinder to burn and doesn't just push it out. So yeah, that's the first exhaust. It's not the best. Now, I don't have any other exhausts right here I can show you, but I can tell you about the few that I've seen. So anyway, this is an exhaust bolted right onto a cylinder. So you'd have to take these bolts off and stick on the new exhaust. It wraps around the bike and comes out near the back like a car would. These exhausts add on multiple horsepower and pick up the speed significantly. So you can actually just go to a company like gasbike.net, scroll down, go to the exhaust section, and you're gonna find tons of different exhausts. Look at the reviews, check them out. They're gonna give you different power for each one. Now, for these exhausts, there's also a couple cons. The first con is that they're super loud. So you've gotta be either wearing earplugs, or if your ears aren't sensitive at all, then you're probably fine, but they're super loud exhausts. So that would be the biggest con right there. The second con is that they provide a lot of vibration. So when you put them on, the bike starts vibrating a lot more, and it basically sounds like a Harley Davidson motorcycle. But if you're looking for something a little louder, that's exhaust for you. It's something that really pumps it out because it does sound cool. All right, moving on to number 2. All right, so for number 2, we're looking at the intake manifolds on our carburetors. So this isn't gonna give you a ton of horsepower, but it's gonna allow the engine to breathe just a little bit more, and it's gonna help give the engine just a little bit more air. So if we shoot down to our carburetor, so right down here on the carburetor, we notice this little black piece, actually kind of big compared to the carburetor, on the back of the carburetor, and this is what they give you for an intake manifold. So right here we've got the little chutes that suck the air in, and it's just really not that breathable. It doesn't allow much breathing for the engine, and it's only this bottom part here that lets in air. So if you can take that off, go on to gasbike.net or any company you use and buy just a little bit more of a breathable intake. So gasbike.net, I keep mentioning them. They've got a lot of supplies, and their bikes that they send you aren't the best. This one came from Walmart, which is kind of surprised. Like, I ordered everything from them, and then like the bike came from Walmart, and I don't even know where the kit came from. So the experience with them isn't my favorite, but if that's where you have to go, that's where you have to go. All right, moving on to number 3. Cylinder. So the cylinders they send you, like this one, are not the best. And when I say not the best, they're just all deformed, all different sizes, shapes, and that's the way they make them. They just make them the big factory line. I'm surprised some of them even make them through like the testing. So a lot of them come and they've got gouges in them, all sorts of stuff. So probably, most likely, your motorized bike has some sort of problem with the cylinder. So go online, go to a company, and buy something called polished and ported. And you can actually do this at home. So if you have like Dremel tools, you can get into the exhaust and intake ports and just smooth everything out, because it's gonna allow the gas to get through so much easier without having all the bumps and gouges in the cylinder. So go on, buy a polished and ported cylinder. Now, there's a couple pros and cons to these. The first pro, obviously, is it makes the bike go way faster. Like this is, I'd say, between this, the exhaust, and then one other thing I'm gonna show you, it's gonna be like the biggest hits. You're gonna be able to go so much faster with these things. That's the biggest pro. The con with these is they're not the easiest to install, and you need to know kind of how to work on engines, pull these motorized bikes apart for doing this, unless you can hire somebody to do it. And they also are kind of pricey. So yeah, polished and ported cylinder, way to go. Next up, coming up, piston. So the piston is the last thing that's gonna be blowing your bike along so fast. it's gonna be another thing, along with the cylinder and the exhaust, that are gonna give you the most power. So your piston's gonna look something like this. And again, just like the cylinder, these are not gonna be the smoothest things, and not being smooth, they're not gonna slide through the cylinder as well, and they're not gonna provide you as much power. So you can go online and also buy a polished imported piston, and that's gonna add on another quite a few horsepower. Pros and cons to these: they make your bike go a lot faster. Con, yeah, they're gonna be a little more expensive than any other piston that you're gonna buy. All right, last but not least, we're gonna look into the sprocket. All right, so back here on the rear corner of the bike, we're gonna have the sprocket. Right there, that round piece that the chain hooks onto and spins the tire. So as you probably know, if you put your bike together, these things are not the easiest to put on. So changing these out probably is not gonna be that easy for you. You're probably gonna have to go through a lot of chain testing again, and that's kind of a pain. So this would be my top priority if you're gonna change something out on the bike. But if you are, you can get a smaller set. I think it's a 36 tooth, and this is like a 48 tooth, something like that, sprocket on here, and it's gonna be much smaller. And with the gear ratio thing, each time that and there spins around, it's gotta spin around a lot more times for a bigger sprocket versus a smaller sprocket. It's gonna spin around a lot faster. And that sprocket up in there is gonna have to spin way less to spin something, because it's not gonna have to move the chain as much. All right, the two cons that I would highlight on the sprocket changing are, when you're going up hills, it's not gonna be as easy because it's gonna have less power put into the tire. So even though it's gonna make you go faster because it's gonna have to spin the chain less to get it moving, it's gonna have a lot harder time to take off, and then it's also gonna have a lot harder time heading up hills. It also is not gonna be the easiest thing to put in. Otherwise, if you're pretty good at putting the chain on and the sprocket on, then you should go for it. All right guys, thanks so much for watching. Those are the 5 things that are gonna make your bike go so much faster. You can go from around 15 miles an hour maximum on a regular bike to going up to probably 35, 45 miles an hour. And you can probably still be going the maximum speed of a regular bike up a steep hill with one of the modded bikes. Again, thanks so much for watching the video. Hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and leave comments on other mods you've done to your bikes that work great and add on a lot of power. Happy Motorsporting from Motorsports.